sleeping. They are awake all through, trying to come up with ways on which this particular pandemic can be dealt with. And I think one of them is that rapid test kits that are being developed so that we don't have delays that have been experienced before, that we have people who have had to wait for their results long and already probably they are infected with this particular virus and they may continue spreading it to other people. So when we have these particular rapid tests so that you can get your results early enough, it will be very efficient in ensuring that we also get the results and certain people who are positive are isolated in time so that they don't infect other people. And it will also challenge Kenyans to go out there and get tested, because most of them, when you ask them why they don't go for testing, voluntary testing, they will tell you that sometimes the results will take long because they have seen it happening before. You have heard the truck drivers complaining that they have had to wait for long for them to get their results. So the moment we have these new developments coming in place and such kind of results are relayed to them in good time, then we are able to deal with this particular pandemic and we are able to encourage people to go out and get tested. So we are likely to see more developments as far as the fight against this coronavirus is concerned. New developments coming in play, and it's just a matter of wait and see to see what other aspects will happen. And I want to really say that Kenya is trying, because we have our own Cambria and all that, trying to see how effective they can be in ensuring that they deal with this pandemic, and they also join the world in coming up with ways in which they can be able to do that.
All right, yes, and away from that, we still at that point of COVID-19, not really away from it, but, in a story that is connected to the same and, bringing a different picture of what things have been between Kenya and Tanzania. And this story right here talks of the, elusive togetherness that has been there between Kenya and Tanzania. Kenya-Tanzania ties at all-time low. A senior official at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs wants issue to be handled by experts. And what do you make of this? I mean, we always have this diplomatic rows between us and Tanzania, yet it should be contrary.
Yes, really, if you look at what is happening right now, of course, the Foreign Affairs Ministry has tried to downplay such kind of tiff between the two countries, but then it is in public domain that the two countries are now not in good working relationship. And of course, this has to do with the way Tanzania is handling the COVID-19 situation in their country. Of course, you remember that the President Magufuli has already declared Tanzania COVID-19 free. And the president in Kenya is saying that really we need to be a bit serious with how we deal with this particular pandemic. And they have taken a stance and they have, had that kind of restrictions in the borders and all that. And I think this is where now the Tanzanian government has come in place, because they think that the Kenyan government is really trying to keep off Tanzania, yet they have declared to be coronavirus free. So I think there is that fight that is there between these two countries just because of the way we are dealing with this particular pandemic. Remember what the president said the other day when he was addressing the nation, that as a country, we cannot afford to keep quiet when our people are dying. We cannot afford to keep quiet when the infections are going high, that information has to be given to the public. And he said that, there are countries who may not give the accurate information as they are. And probably when he was speaking, he could be referring to such countries as Tanzania. And when the Tanzanian counterpart spoke, that is President Magufuli, he talked of countries that, have the curfew hours at night. And he was quoted saying that these are people who think that the virus is only spread at night. So there is that particular fight that is happening between these two countries, and it is very detrimental. It is very dangerous, this fight, because you realize that these two countries enjoy a mutual benefit as far as trade is concerned. At the moment we have these particular differences, then we affect the trade, and the people who suffer are the traders who are down there. So it is important that the experts come in place. The ambassadors, of course, the foreign affairs ministers need to have a robust discussion on how to end this particular tiff so that the two countries can continue working in relationship. Because in the past we have seen them doing that, and we would expect that they reconcile and have the two countries work in to be back in their good working relationship, as it were.
Right, and beware of mobile wallet thieves, CA tells Kenyans. And of course, a ward representative lost about 1.9 million from his accounts while in Israel last year. Just how safe are, the monies that you put in your phone? Do you always feel safe? Do you always feel like they're in the right place? Don't you ever get scared that you might meet, thugs and they'll tell you, what, withdraw kila kitu yenye uko nayo?
I think these are issues that have been there before. Of course, there have been cases of mobile wallet thieves happening before in our country. It's not the first time that we are seeing this, and therefore we need to be assured that our money is safe, because very many Kenyans have been forced to withdraw money without their consent because of the lack of proper safety in terms of how this money is handled, and therefore it calls on the banks to also be very stringent and have proper education to the public that they should be very careful, especially with their money, so that we don't have this, because you realize that thieves are becoming a bit advanced in how they get their monies, and therefore it will also be important for Kenyans to be very, very secure even during these hard times. And it's very easy to do that, because they will simply sometimes I don't know how they're able to get your passwords and all that, and without your knowledge you see that huge amounts of money have been withdrawn from your accounts, and therefore it also calls for the banks to be a bit stringent on how these particular things happen. And what we are seeing, I think many banks are also developing ways in which they can deal with this particular issue so that it does not recur, because it affects very many Kenyans. If you ask how many Kenyans have lost their money through such kind of ways, you will be shocked. There are very, very many that are not reported, but probably they could be in huge sums or some in little sums, but still it raises questions on the safety of their money.
I agree, Collins. Now, we cross over to the People's Daily, as we, of course, tell you that you need to be cautious. If need be, do not have so much money, that is stored in your mobile wallet. I mean, because it is pretty much unfortunate.
Yes.
And, sometimes they don't even have to get your PIN number. Like I said, you just bump into them. I know of a friend who's gone through that. They come to you, they tell you, zote, tuingie ini KCB toa, ini toa. So, if you have so much money of it, you lose almost everything. And secret meeting that averted Senate revenue showdown. This one has been captured on page 4. Just people trying to figure out what could have informed this stalemate and this hard stance by the senators. But that aside, I think we've touched on that, and we'll still touch on it later on the next segment. New center of power. And details on page 3, Atwoli's 50-acre ranch, the Mart, Kajiado County, is fast becoming the place where political careers are created or annihilated. Do you agree to that?
Yes, it's evident. It's now evident that we are seeing that Atwoli's Kajiado home has become a place where certain decisions are made. Of course, over the weekend, we saw pictures in the social media of the former Prime Minister together with the former minister, that is, what is his name? We have PK.
Well, we had Orengo, we had the former Prime Minister,
we had all those.
We had Peter Kenneth.
Yes, so then you'd want to believe that there were discussions on politics and all things that are happening in the country. So it is very correct to say that indeed it is becoming a powerhouse, so to speak, where people make certain decisions, they go there, meet, and we have had meetings even from the Luya Nation happening at Atwoli's home. So it tells you that probably is a man to watch as far as the decisions of this country is concerned, because he has been given that particular huge power. I don't know from where, but at least you can see how powerful he has all of a sudden become, so much that people assemble in his home to make certain decisions and to make certain proclamations as far as the 2022 politics are concerned, as far as the BBI politics are concerned. And he has been in the front line in championing for certain aspects in the BBI. And I mean, these are discussions that needs to happen, because he has become a key decision maker as far as the Kenyan politics is concerned. So it is correct to say that he may be one of the quote-unquote political brokers.
Okay, well, let's see. Indeed, well, from how he speaks, like he says, he has no interest in running for any seat, but he is actively involved on the politics of the country. There is a very heartbreaking story right here, captured on the front page and extensively expounded on page 2 of the People Daily. Family pain as a 48 test COVID positive. In a blood-curdling narration, Nakuru lawyer Gordon Ogola reveals how his elder brother succumbed to the virus within 24 hours of admission, and his 80-year-old mother fought for her life in intensive care. And Moses Osoro Ogola, who's captured below, will be buried today at his home in Godngoshe village, Migori County. But as expounded right here, imagine 48 of you. This probably speaks hugely of how COVID-19 is equally ravaging families as it stands.
Yes, really, it's a very sad story. Looking at 48 is just a huge number, and therefore, again, that speaks volumes on how this particular disease can be so dangerous to our families that we need to be careful even when we are at home and the people we interact with, so that we don't end up infecting such kind of a population. That is huge. Losing such kind of close family friends is something that no one would want to go through. And therefore, as a country, we need to take this particular disease seriously. And I'm happy that Kenyans slowly are accepting to heed to the directives by government, because in the past they have been a bit skeptical. But when we have such kind of pictures being painted to them, then it tells them that they need to be serious so that they don't end up in such kind of situations, because we don't want to see ourselves losing more Kenyans to this particular disease, because we don't want to be seen as though the disease is winning. We need to win against it, and the only way we can win against this particular disease is when we keep safe, we continue observing the regulations by the Ministry of Health, so that we don't end up losing more lives, because it's very sad. And you have seen in the news, we are being told about high-profile people who are losing their lives, and therefore, as Kenyans, we don't want to go that direction. It can be dangerous. Too, you're talking of within a day, somebody has passed on because of this particular virus. So again, we have to be very serious, because it is very sad losing even one, let alone all those people. Losing even one family person is very heartbreaking, and we wouldn't want to go that direction. Let us abide by the regulations given by the Ministry of Health.
All right, well, that's an unfortunate story, and coming all the way to page 4, more or less the stories that we've captured on the other newspapers. Also, team of MES query extend term. Ad hoc committee at the Senate, of course, probing the 63 billion managed equipment service, gets 34 more days. And Senate ad hoc committee investigating the 63 billion leased medical equipment under the controversial managed equipment services has been given 34 more days after it sought for an extension to conclude its work. Matters, corruption. First of all, well, they say the wheels of justice grind slow, but as it grinds slow, I mean, what are the likelihoods that we're going to get answers? At this time of COVID-19, numerous people are becoming rich, making money out of this, begging the question as to just how genuine, the government can be in terms of dealing with corruption in the country. What do you make of these extensions, and what do you make of the current cases that we are witnessing, courtesy of, some special officials getting numerous of monies out of, the monies that have been awarded to deal with COVID-19 in the country?
First, let me say that it's unfortunate that people would want to profiteer from such kind of a pandemic, that people would want to make money out of a situation that is very sad to the country. Mm-hmm. And again, if indeed what we read in the papers is anything to go by, again, we are talking of people who are supplying PPEs that are not in good condition. We are killing our people when we continue to do that. And such kind of people need to be brought to book. And no one is above the law. It's important that corruption be fought, and without any kind of excuses. We don't expect government to give excuses. We expect the DCI, the DPP, the EACC to take up this particular matter once and for all and deal with it, because anytime we have a story running in our newspapers, it's not to be ignored. They should take it into consideration, question those particular people, and bring to book all those that have been found culpable, so that we don't have Kenyans continue suffering because of mistakes made by others. Some of them, Kenyans have continued to pay attention to the regulations by the Ministry of Health, but probably the masks that they wear may not be in good condition because they were supplied by people who are not certified. And therefore, the corruption that is happening around this particular matter needs to be dealt with. And again, we are talking of the corruption that happened before in the Ministry of Health, where the procurement of the health facilities and all that, and the Senate calling for an extension of their term. Let's hope that they mean it. Let's hope that they are going to interrogate it, and we are going to see those senior officials who have been mentioned as having been part and parcel of the group that swindled funds to the tunes of billions in the Ministry of Health are brought to book. Let's not have these headlines that a discussion is happening. Then when it comes to prosecution, we don't see it happening. We want to see high-profile prosecutions because that is the only way that we will be able to see that the government is winning on the war against corruption. And again, as I have said, no one is above the law. Every person who has been mentioned must be held accountable because these are public funds. We have, as a country, taken loan from other countries to deal with COVID-19. And these loans are going to be repaid by our own citizens. We are going to repay them through our taxes. And the moment we don't hold accountable those who are in leadership, then they will continue to perpetuate such kind of evils, and we are the people who continue to suffer. So they need to be called out, and they need to be told that it is wrong to do that, and they need to be held accountable, taken to court. I mean, the justice system has now been digitized, so we expect people to still go to court without excuses of COVID-19. Let them be held accountable and let them tell us where the money is, so that as a country we don't keep going back and forth on this issue of corruption, because as far as I'm concerned, we have not yet won on this fight.
All right, and speaking of which, let's cross over to the cartoon editions and the PPEs that we're talking about, the numerous, stuff or goodies that are, of course, in the bag of COVID-19 are, interesting. And when you look at these goodies, they are not goodies because they are goodies. They're out here so that they can help us deal with COVID-19. But as it stands, looking at the cartoon edition on the Daily Nation, I mean, that huge, guy right there who calls himself the PPEs, fully loaded, and numerous of leaders and officials out there swindling money, enjoying or drinking from him or her. It's actually her, because then definitely that's a woman if they are suckling from her. So they're suckling, and by the time we know it, Kenyans will have lost everything.
Yeah, it's really true, because the leadership is what is failing us as a country. That Kenyans are suffering and they want to get all. We know we have been promised a lot by government. We have been told that these PPEs will be given to us free. We have been told that masks are being made by the local industries that we have in Kenya, but we still have Kenyans who cannot access them, and politicians are taking advantage of it, probably to play politics with it. Others have gotten this particular, they have been given that particular mandate to deliver these particular PPEs, but then they are being delivered in, some of them are substandard, they don't meet the conditions that have been set, and therefore the people who are suffering, the Kenyans down there, they are the ones who continue to suffer, and they seem to be begging to be given that as though it is a privilege. It is a right for Kenyans, because we pay taxes. We pay taxes to the government, and we expect them to reciprocate by just issuing them. I don't see why there is usually a lot more hula baloo when it comes to that. You have to take photographs to show Kenyans that you are giving them masks. I mean, you can just distribute them without having to go public, because that is where you make leadership appear as though it's only the high-end people who can do that. As Kenyans, we need to help each other without taking into consideration our status as a person. We need to help each other the way we can, without saying that one person is big or the other is small. We all are Kenyans, and therefore we need to be very keen when it comes to dealing with certain kind of issues.
All right, and as you said, the politicians and the politics seem to be coming on board, or they seem to be coming on board to try and distract us from the fight against COVID-19, out here trying to get their chunk, out here trying to enjoy. And as captured by Stano on the People's Daily newspaper, cartoon edition, Kalonzo Musyoka pictured right there trying to enjoy something from the handshake. This is now, of course, according to the agreement that they had with the Jubilee Party, something that has not been received so well with ODM. So we might not be able to expound some more on that, even as we take at a story, look at a story that has been captured also here on how the DP is out here trying to, woo the people on, of course, Right Honorable Raila Odinga's tough areas, and that is, I don't know why I'm not able to get that story. Yes, he's trying to woo people from Nyanza just to try and see whether they can come to his side. Probably going against, this is it, going against what it is that has been declared by the Ministry of Health, that politicians, President Uhuru Kenyatta also saying, should not be holding some of these sessions because it is not right at this time of COVID-19. But as you can see, Deputy President William Ruto hosted legislators from Nyamira to drum up support for his presidential campaign. So much revolving around that, but time would not allow us to go through that. Collins Bore, thank you so much for your time. That's where we get to look the newspaper review segment. As we cross over to the current affairs segment, Joseph Zimehar will be joining me and Kijana Steve to expound some more on the crucial topics that we have after this break.